The name of this class is Therapeutic Lifestyle Strategies for Healthy Aging. And really, I wanted to tell a story before I get started on the different strategies that I'm going to talk about. But first off, I want to let you know that everything that I'm going to be talking about is on the website. So you can take notes, and that's great. If you have questions for me, write those down on your paper, and then come and talk to me afterwards. I have a lot that I would like to get through, but I do want to answer your questions too. So please come and see me after if you have questions. I'm going to be telling you a lot of things you're going to see not to do, but every time I give you some advice on what not to put in your body, I'm going to follow it up with some advice on what to put into your body. So I just want to give you a heads up on that so you don't feel like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. There are so many things that we can do to become more healthy, so I wanted to let you know that. Now, the way I got involved in health and nutrition, it's really changed my focus in my life in a big way, but it started about 5 years ago, really. My parents came back from Indonesia, and they had been on the mission field and retired, come back to the U.S., and then went back. And they had to come back early. And unfortunately, it was because Dad's health was declining. And he was having a very difficult time remembering his language, the Bahasa, and teaching in the language. And also, he lost a lot of weight, and he got down to 128 pounds. He was not able to absorb nutrition from the food that he was eating. He was very weak. He couldn't walk very far. He walked very slowly. And when they came back to the U.S., it was so noticeable to me that his health was very much in decline and his memory was in decline. Sorry, Dad, I'm talking about you. But your story is a big part of what got me interested in this. And so he went to lots of different doctors to try to figure out what was going on. It wasn't long after that, too, that he started having TIAs. He had 5 mini strokes. And all of these things were so concerning to me as his daughter, because I love my dad so much. And I was so concerned about his health. And there was one point that we thought we might lose Dad, and we even talked about what we were going to do. About that same time, my daughter Grace was exposed to mold in her bedroom, and she became incredibly ill, and I thought I was going to lose my daughter. And her story is a little bit longer, but because of her and the health issues that she had, I had to sort of refocus my life on getting her well. She was born premature. She had asthma, she had eczema, she had ADHD and speech disorders and dyspraxia. She had a lot of anxiety issues, and I thought she was allergic to the sun because she couldn't sweat, and she would go outside and she would start to scratch and she would turn red and she couldn't handle being outside. I thought she was allergic to water because I put her in the bathtub and she would scream and scream whenever I put her in water. She had so much pain when water would touch her, and she had eczema all over her body. And so, we went to her doctor and pediatrician, and we did allergic testing, for allergies to try to figure out what in the world was going on. And we'd been on rounds of antibiotics and steroids all the time, and it just seemed like she just kept getting worse, that she wasn't getting better. And because of my family members, I dove in to all of this, trying to figure out why are we having these issues, and how can we heal, and how can they get better. And so there was a doctor in our town that's a little bit unconventional that I'd heard about, and he was having amazing results with some children with autism in our area. And so, we were a little bit skeptical, but we invited him over to our house for dinner. We didn't want to go see him. We didn't want to pay him anything because we didn't know if he was any good or not, but we had him over for dinner. And he explained to us a little bit about what he did and about the testing that he does. And he does what's called functional testing. It's not diagnostics, but it's looking for root causes. And he explained what that was. And so we decided to do that. So we went and did some labs, and we figured out that we did what's called a food intolerance test, and we figured out that Grace had some food intolerances. Her body had an immune response to some foods, and she'd had chronic stomach pain every day, always complaining about her stomach, constipation, all these issues. And so we took her off those foods, and a week later, no more stomach pain. That went away. I mean, it was amazing to me how quickly the pain went away and her digestion started to get better. And that continued on. But we also did some other tests, and we found out that she had lead and mercury and aluminum in her body at very high levels. And I thought, how in the world does a 6-year-old have this much toxicity in her body? She had parasites, and she had H. pylori, and she had yeast overgrowth, and permeable gut, and all these different issues going on that were causing her a lot of problems. She had Lyme disease, and we just did all these different tests, and we were discovering all the root causes of what was happening with her. And Dr. John said, we're going to put her on a lifestyle program that's using food as medicine and therapeutic doses of supplements. We're going to heal her gut, and we're going to get these metals out of her body. And he did the same thing with Dad, put him on a program to really heal and seal up his gut, and he had to get off a bunch of foods in order to do it as well. And we were skeptical, but through the process of going through this, what we call lifestyle medicine, they were able to heal. And so Dad now has unbelievable amounts of energy. He does the yard work, goes and works out for 2 hours, 2 or 3 days a week, got his memory back, got his Indonesian back, is able to teach now, do Master Life, lead a team. And Grace was an honor student the next year. She went from going to the doctor every month to now she goes once a year for her checkup. Her eczema went away. She's just a normal, healthy kid now. And I'm so, so grateful for the things that I learned. And because we were dirt poor, well, we weren't dirt poor, but it's expensive, I started working at the clinic in order to pay for a lot of this. And in the meantime, Dr. John began to mentor me and teach me about lifestyle medicine. And he's been my mentor for the last 4 years. And now I am the senior lifestyle educator at the clinic. And so I work with people that come in, they want to get off their medications, they want to be healthy. And so we use food as medicine and lifestyle as medicine to heal. So it's really amazing. And this is really for, long-term chronic illness that we're dealing with. So I'm going to share with you some of these principles and strategies. So what's amazing about our bodies is that we're made up of over 60 trillion living cells. And every minute of your life, 300 million of those cells die and replace themselves. And what are they made of? The minerals, the vitamins, the antioxidants, the amino acids, the fatty acids are what build every cell in our body and every organ in our body. So what you put in your body really matters for your cellular health. Our body is like our house, and if we don't take care of it, we don't use good building materials, it's going to start to break down, and we're going to have a lot of problems with our health. The Bible says that we need to honor God with our body. But first of all, we need to build a foundation of health as we do that. So 80% of chronic diseases are caused by lifestyle choices. 80% of chronic diseases are caused by lifestyle choices. You can't medicate your way out of a problem that you behaved your way into. Our genes are not our destiny. And so we know now through the science of epigenetics that the food that we eat and the exercise that we do and the choices that we make about our lifestyle can turn on and off our genes. It can turn off genes for disease and turn on genes for health. A great example of this is celiac disease. And so some of the doctors thought that Dad had celiac, another one that he had tropical sprue. But celiac disease has a genetic component, but you cannot get it unless you eat gluten. Gluten causes celiac disease. So even though you have the genes, you can't get it without the environmental trigger, without the lifestyle choice of eating that food. So God's called us to be stewards of our bodies, to honor him with our bodies. And so that's what we want to do. It's not about how long we live, but it's about the quality of the life and how well we can live our life while we're on this earth. There's this graph up here. I don't know if you can see it, but this was put out by Metagenics. They have a hospital out in California where they use lifestyle as medicine, and I did some of my training under them through the Institute for Functional Medicine. And there's 2 bars on here, 2 lines. The blue one represents people that eat the standard American diet. That's the SAD diet. And you can see there that health begins to decline for the average American Around 40, 50, that's when we start feeling the aches and pains and our bodies start to break down. And then by the time most Americans are in their 50s and 60s, they're beginning to feel some poor health. They're going into more poor health. And then by 70s and 80s, we're seeing progressive disability, chronic disability. A lot of people have already had heart attacks and strokes. And so this is sort of the trajectory that we see in our culture, and we're used to that. That's just common. But people that apply lifestyle as medicine can live into their 70s at a very optimal level of health, 70s and 80s, with a slow decline. So we know that our lifestyle choices make a big difference. So I'm going to share with you 11 different strategies. We're not going to talk about all of them today, and I think you took them off the screen, but I'm going to read them to you, and then we're going to go through each one individually. So the first one is about mindset. When you're deciding to use lifestyle as medicine, you have to decide to care, because it takes initiative and commitment. You've got to value your health. So decide to care. Number two, we're going to talk about taking out the garbage, because there's so much garbage in our lives, in our environment. There's toxins, pollutants, all this stuff that damages our health. And then we've got to build a healthy gut. The gut is the foundation of health. And I'll talk about that. We've got to stabilize our blood sugar, and that's a huge issue in America. We eat so much sugar and so many carbs. Blood sugar is really critical to health. We've got to optimize our nutrition. We got to get away from all this processed junk food and begin to eat foods that are loaded with nutrition. We have to supplement wisely, because we can't get everything we need from our food. Soils are much more depleted than they used to be. So we've got to supplement, especially as we get older, and then get moving. It's really important to move our bodies. God made us to move, and I'm going to talk about some exercises that I recommend that will help us to build muscle even later in life. And then managing stress is really important. Staying connected with others, giving back, living out that passion, that gifting that God has given you, and then just having fun in your life. So these are some of the strategies I'm going to talk about. So first of all, we have to decide to care. Healthy aging is a result of healthy lifestyle choices. Aging well is all about mindset. It is choosing to be a good steward of your mind, your body, and your spirit. The truth is, we spend money on what we value, right? So a lot of us will spend money on our houses, our vacations, our clothes, but we don't want to spend money on our food. A lot of times we're unwilling to do that because we don't value our health, or we haven't made the connection that what we eat impacts our health. So how do you spend money and time taking care of yourself? Think about that. Remember, we reap what we sow. So if we sow unhealthy food and unhealthy living, we're going to reap an unhealthy body. So what are some things that accelerate aging? Before I go on to this, I want to read a few statistics. In 1970, that's the year that I was born, 1 in 25,000 children had autism. Today, 1 in 50 has autism. That's 1 in 50 boys. In 1970, 4% of children were obese with rare cases of type 2 diabetes. In 2013, 40% of children are obese, and 1 in 3 children in this generation will suffer from diabetes. Diabetes cases among all age groups have increased more than 700% in the last 50 years. Childhood asthma rates have increased by 160% since 1990. Only 1% of children were diagnosed with ADHD in 1970. Today, 1 out of 5 is. Food allergies are now among America's most common medical concerns. Today, 3 in 100 people have a life-threatening allergy to peanuts, dairy, eggs, or shellfish. According to the American Cancer Society, cancer rates have increased since 1901 from 1 in 8,000 Americans to 1 in 3 today. Brain cancer rates in children are up 40% in the last 20 years. The Pentagon says 75% of American youth are too fat, sick, dumb, or drugged up on psychosomatic drugs to serve in the military. Psychostimulant drugs, sorry. The U.S. infant mortality rate is now 34th in the world, and the U.S. life expectancy rate is 53rd in the world. So there's something going on in our country. It's global too, but something is really causing us to be ill. and to age faster and to have chronic disease earlier. We're still living long, but we're not living as well. And so that's what this is about. So some of the things that are accelerate aging that I'm going to talk about, poor diet is huge. Poor diet causes inflammation in the body, unstable blood sugar, nutritional deficiencies, pollutants. I mean, even our toxic thoughts like unforgiveness and bitterness, chemicals, heavy metals, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs even, exposure to electromagnetic fields, all these pollutants can affect our health and aging. Pathogenic microbes like mold and Lyme, yeast, parasites, bacteria, protozoa, all of these things affect our aging. Chronic stress, lack of exercise, poor sleep, and isolation. So what we really need to do is take out the garbage. That's where we have to start. So we're going to decide to care, we're going to value our health, we're not going to be afraid to spend money on our health, and then we're going to clean up. We've got to take out the garbage. So some of the things that we did, I'm going to show you in just a minute, but you have to stop polluting your body. If you want to get well, if you want to be healthy, you've got to stop polluting your body. Don't eat chemicals and toxins, pesticides, plastics, food additives. They're all in our food, and you have to know what's in your food if you want to be healthy. Don't use toxic personal care products that contain phthalates, parabens, sodium lauryl sulfate. This is all going to be on the website, by the way, because your skin absorbs what you put on it, 60% of it. Don't use toxic house cleaning products. Look for clean products. Don't drink toxic water with fluoride and chlorine and perchlorate. There's so much stuff in our water. We need to filter our water. And then watch out for mold in your environment. A lot of our homes are moldy, and it affects about 1 out of every 4 American has a genetic predisposition for mold toxicity. So just good to know. You can be very sick and not know why, and it can be mold. 85,000 chemicals have been released into our environment in mostly the last 50 years. Modern babies today are born with 200 chemicals in their blood. Many of these we know cause cancer, are endocrine disruptors. They actually mimic estrogen in the body. So just being aware that this is really a huge change in this generation that our kids and our bodies are being exposed to that other generations weren't. There's a great website called Environmental Working Group, ewg.org, and they have all kinds of information on there about how to shop, what to buy clean for healthcare products, skincare products, sunscreen, whatever it is. Now, one of the first things we did was we got rid of the plastic in our house. As far as for drinking out of, we bought stainless steel containers. We don't want to be drinking out of plastic because BPA and BPS can leak into the plastic, and those are endocrine disruptors. Also, our canned food, the lining of our cans, contain plastic, and if you eat tomatoes out of a can, it's leaching that BPA out of the plastic in the lining of the can. So just buy them in jars. Another thing that we did was we really had to clean up our water because we discovered that the cause of Grace's eczema was fluoride. She was incredibly, incredibly sensitive to fluoride. And so we bought a reverse osmosis system, which takes out the fluoride. We also have a big Berkey, which we take with us. We have it downstairs to purify the water. It takes out the chlorine. We know that chlorine and fluoride are both halogens. They block the uptake of iodine into our thyroid and can cause thyroid problems because we have to have iodine in order to make the hormones that we need for health. So really important to get those out of our water. And chlorine also damages our gut flora. So just another reason to get chlorine out of the water. And another thing I learned about fluoride was when I turned over my toothpaste that it's a poison, and if you swallow a dollop, you're supposed to call poison control. I didn't know that. That was really surprising. 25 human studies have linked fluoride with lower IQ in children, including recent research from Harvard, and 100 animal studies link it to brain damage. And we drink it all the time. We know it causes fluorosis of the teeth. So really important to get fluoride out of your body if you want to have optimal health. Another thing that we did was we got rid of our toxic cookware. Teflon is a carcinogen. It's linked to bladder, kidney, and testicular cancer. And so getting good cookware, ceramic, cast iron, titanium, stainless steel are all really good options. And then another thing is deodorant. Who knew, right? So Grace couldn't sweat. When she was toxic with all these heavy metals, she couldn't sweat. That was the problem. It was the heavy metals. As soon as we got the metals out of her body, she started to sweat. And it was interesting to me that deodorant has aluminum in it. And so you don't want to put aluminum in your body. Then there's some other issues with regular deodorant. So I'm going to show you the ones that we use. Dangerous chemicals to avoid in sunscreen. Who knew? Sunscreen can cause cancer. You've got to choose the right sunscreen to avoid issues with that. There's so many chemicals in our products that we just don't know what they're doing to our body. So here's just a few products that we use. Kiss My Face for sensitive skin is a great product, a sunscreen. Tom's of Maine doesn't have any of those bad products in it for deodorant. And then Kiss My Face toothpaste, fluoride-free, is a great product. There's so many out there. Environmental Working Group has a whole list, even for cleaning products for your home. So my question is, do you know what's in your food? Do we know what's in our food? Our food has changed dramatically in even in just the last 20 years. The majority of food items in your grocery store are made with refined carbs, chemically altered fats, preservatives, sweeteners, and other synthetic ingredients that are highly objectionable to your health. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. In order to compete and make large profits, food industry scientists have to create items that you will want to purchase and eat over and over again. This is called craveability or food addiction. So just the right mix of sugar, toxic fats, and salt or monosodium glutamate will hook you. You want that food, and it's not your fault. You're hooked. It's science. They know how to engineer food to hook you. So just be aware of that. I don't think God wants us to be addicted to anything. If you can't give up a food that's dangerous for your health, think about, am I addicted to this food? Why can't I let this food go? It's harming my body. So here's just a few things to look for. Monosodium glutamate is in almost every processed food and fast food. It is fed to lab rats to induce obesity. We know that it's a neurotoxin. It's an excitotoxin that excites the cells to death in your brain. Aspartame is an obesogen. It contains methanol that's converted to formaldehyde in your body that damages the nervous system. It also damages your microbiome. It's in all your diet sodas. Just be aware of this. High fructose corn syrup. The FDA testing showed that 6 out of 20 batches of high fructose corn syrup contain mercury. And fructose, we know, it's metabolized differently than glucose in our body. So when you eat sugar, right, your body uses it for energy in your cell. You can burn it, the glucose in it. But when you have fructose, and pure fructose goes straight to the liver, your cells don't use it for energy. The liver converts it to cholesterol and to triglycerides, stores it as fat. So stay away from anything with high fructose corn syrup. You don't want mercury in your body, and you don't want to put something in your body that's making you fat. A lot of these chemicals that are in our food in America are actually banned in most of the world. Here's a list of 8 of them that are banned because they cause health problems. They've been linked to health issues. Here's an example, Nutrigrain by Kellogg's. If you notice, in America, we use chemical food dyes. But in Europe and England, they use food for food dyes. This is because it's cheaper that they use the chemicals in America instead of the real food. But these chemicals cause neurobehavioral issues in some children. So I had a client who came in with her son with ADHD, and what we do with these kids is we always put them on a gluten-free and a dairy-free diet to calm the brain, and then we take them off all these artificial chemicals. And she called me a month later and said, oh, he's so calm and happy, and we just can't believe what a difference this has made for him. And then 2 weeks later, he went to the party and he had Skittles, and she said he was off the wall, crazy wild, back to just the way he was. She said, I had no idea that food coloring could have that much of an impact on somebody. And so food does affect mood, and just realize that chemicals do have an impact. Another food to remove is genetically modified food. And what is that? Genetically engineered foods have had foreign genes, that's from other plants and animals, inserted into their genetic code. On May 19, 2009, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine has called on all physicians to prescribe diets without genetically modified foods to all their patients. And why is this? Because several animal studies indicate serious health risks associated with GMO food, including infertility, immune problems, accelerated aging, insulin regulation, and changes in major organs and the gastrointestinal system. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine put this out. And you have to know that the chemical companies that make this food are only required to do 90 days of testing. All the long-term studies by independent scientists show issues with these food, and that's why they're banned or severely restricted in 60 countries. But they're still allowed here, and they don't even label them. So I'm going to tell you what they are, because if you want optimal health, if you want to age well, you don't need to be putting these foods into your body. So the top 10 genetically modified foods in America are cotton. So cottonseed oil is definitely a no-no. Soy, anything with soy in it, soybean oil, corn, 95% of all corn in America is genetically modified. Zucchini, sugar beets, papaya from Hawaii specifically, dairy, and that's only the conventional dairy because they inject the cows with RBGH, which is a hormone that we know causes cancer. It's a genetically modified hormone. Aspartame, canola oil, and yellow squash. So what you can do is just buy these organic, and then you don't have to worry about it. You can look for the GMO Project Verified to get these foods out of your diet. And one thing about these foods is that they're heavily, heavily sprayed with something called Roundup. Does anybody know what Roundup is? Have you ever used it? Okay. So Roundup, we know, is an endocrine disruptor. It mimics estrogen in the body, and it causes DNA damage. And now the World Health Organization came out about a month ago saying that it is a probable cause of cancer, and countries all over the world have banned it. France banned it last week. And now we know actually that it's toxic in parts per trillion. It causes birth defects. Rates of cancer around farms where they use this are very high compared to the regular public, and it causes neurological disorders. So these foods, these genetically engineered foods, have been engineered to withstand Roundup as an herbicide. So they are absolutely drenched with this pesticide. And so, incidentally, is wheat. Actually, wheat is heavily treated with this 3 days before harvest to ripen it. So what I recommend is that we stay away from pesticides as much as possible and buy organic. The National Academy of Sciences now estimates that about 1/3 of all neurobehavioral disorders like autism and ADHD are caused either directly by pesticides and other chemicals or by interaction between environmental exposures and genetics. Some experts say this estimate is likely to be low as the health profession is just beginning to fully recognize the contributions of environmental factors to disease formation. A study published in PubMed, and I quote, "Malignancies linked to pesticides in case reports or case-controlled studies include leukemia, neuroblastoma, Wilms tumor, soft tissue sarcoma, Ewing sarcoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and cancers of the brain, colorectal, and testes. Children may be particularly sensitive to the carcinogenic effects of pesticides." So I don't mind spending a little money for organic. It's a little bit more expensive. I don't want pesticides in my body or my kids' bodies. So there's a list. It's called the Clean 15 or the Dirty Dozen. You can go online if you can't see this. But thin-skinned fruits and vegetables, the pesticides get inside the skin. You can't wash it off. And so I recommend that you buy those organic. So there are some things that we can do to help support the amazing organs that God has given us for detoxification, because we have a heavier body load of chemicals than any other generation has had. And it can put a lot of weight on our kidneys and our liver and our lymphatic system. So we started using food to help cleanse our bodies. Cilantro is an herb that binds with mercury and helps to remove it from the body. Chlorella also helps remove heavy metals from the body. Berries are very detoxifying. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts. All of these are very good for cleansing the cells. Liquid fasting is a wonderful way to help your body to detoxify. Things like juicing, and we do a juice and a broth fast for 5 days. Milk thistle is a supplement you can buy to support your liver. Ultra Clear Renew Shake is a shake that we use in our clinic that's been clinically approved by the FDA because it removes over 200 heavy metals and chemicals from the body. So if you're interested in that, we have a lot of people with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and oftentimes they're very, very toxic, and they need to be on a program to help get all of that out of their body. And make sure you have at least between 1 and 4 bowel movements a day. If you're not doing that, you're going to become very toxic because you have to move that stuff out. If you're not, take extra magnesium at night, vitamin C, and then try a food elimination diet. We'll talk about that in a second. Infrared saunas are excellent also. If you know somebody in your area that has one, to just sweat it out. But we're all toxic at some level, and so it's really good to support your body this way. So many, many people are intolerant to food and don't even know it. And I'm not talking about a food allergy. We know what that is. But a food intolerance is a delayed response. It can happen up to 3 days after you eat a food, so you never know what it is. All you know is you feel crummy, maybe you don't have much energy, maybe you get headaches. And so there are 6 common food sensitivities or intolerances, and that's dairy. Gluten is the #1 most common. I know because I see the test results, and 99% of people that take our test have an immune response to gluten. Their blood, we can actually see it. Corn, eggs, peanuts, and soy. And so we recommend that people do a 30-day elimination diet of all these foods at once, including sugar and artificial sweeteners, and then begin to add them back in one at a time after 30 days. You can do a blood test to find out, or you can do a 30-day elimination diet. You have to be 100% off these foods for it to work. And then you gradually add them back in. One, eat it all day, and then wait 3 days and then add another one. Your body will tell you. Learn to listen to your body. I know when I eat something that is not good for me because my body tells me. I can really hear it. That is one way that you can help bring down the inflammation in your body. I have a little video I want to show you about, we don't have time? Okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about gluten. I had a doctor in here that I was going to show you, but I don't know if we have enough time. But a review paper in the New England Journal of Medicine has listed 55 diseases that they know now can be caused by eating gluten. Gluten sensitivity is a wide spectrum of disorders marked by an abnormal immunological response to gluten. Different organs can be affected by different types of gluten sensitivity, and 80% of people that have it don't know it because it doesn't affect their gastrointestinal system. It's affecting their brain, usually, or some other part of their body, their thyroid. And so we know that gluten triggers inflammation, and I'm talking about this because I think it was the #1 food that we removed that really helped us to heal. Really important. Gluten is very low in nutrients. It causes weight gain. People that eat gluten tend to eat 300 calories more a day than people who don't. It contains anti-nutrients, phytates, and lectins that inhibit nutrient absorption and irritate the digestive tract. So it actually removes minerals from the body. It causes cravings for carbohydrates. The more you eat, the more you want. It's a very addictive food. And it contains glyphosate, this toxic pesticide that's being sprayed on it. And bleached white flour, your all-purpose white flour, contains a chemical called alloxin, which kills beta cells. In fact, it's used in lab rats to induce diabetes. So they use it because it kills the beta cells in the pancreas. And every time you eat white flour, you're eating something that could potentially cause diabetes. And gluten creates gut permeability because it releases a chemical called zonulin in the digestive tract that opens up the tight junctions in the gut and allows food particles and bacteria to get into the bloodstream where it is not supposed to be. And it's one of the issues that can lead to autoimmune disease. And here's a little video of what that looks like. The gluten is triggering the release of the protein zonulin. It opens up, and you see the particles of it coming into the bloodstream, and then all this undigested food entering it, and then you have this immune system reaction and inflammation throughout the body. And it's so, so common, and people don't even know what it's doing to their bodies. So what we did is nowadays there are so many great options. When you give up gluten, there's rice flour. You can get pasta made out of quinoa and rice and corn, although I don't do corn because it's a GMO food. Pamela's is our favorite. I don't know if you had the brownies out there that were gluten-free, but Pamela's does pancakes, cookies, bread mixes, so you can still have those things. I don't recommend doing a lot of gluten-free, actually, because they're so high in sugar, but when you want to, if you have children over or company, it's nice to have that option. So the next strategy that I want to talk about is building a healthy microbiome or a healthy gut. In the 19th century, biologist and Nobel laureate Eli Metchnikov made a stunningly direct link between human longevity and a healthy balance of bacteria in the body, confirming that death begins in the colon. Today, scientific research is bringing more and more credence to the notion that up to 90% of all known human illness can be traced back to an unhealthy gut. And what goes into our gut 3 times a day? Food. Food is what's impacting our gut. It's where the environmental triggers are interacting with our genes and causing the expression of disease or health. It's happening in our gut. So our ecosystem, all these bacteria in our gut, are our number one line of defense against infections and disease. Your microbes outnumber your cells 10 to 1. You have 10,000 species of 100 trillion microbes, little bugs living in your body. If we took them all out, they would weigh between 3 and 5 pounds, depending on the size of the person, just microscopic bugs. Your intestinal microbiome exerts influence over every organ and every part of your body. Did you know that your neurotransmitters for your brain hormones, are made primarily in your gut by bacteria? Serotonin, 95% of it is actually made in the gut. And so all these people are on antidepressants. We live in the age of antibiotics. We're destroying our gut microbiomes with all of the antibiotics and chlorine and pesticides and steroids and NSAIDs that we're taking, like ibuprofen. And then we wonder why we're so depressed and we can't focus. Glutamine is made in the gut. Glutamine is memory and focus. That's brain hormone for that. GABA is made in the gut. That's your brain hormone for calm. So if you have a lot of anxiety, sometimes just taking probiotics can help you feel happier and more calm because you're bringing the good bacteria back in. So really important that we try to take care of our microbiome. So probiotics are very, very important for health. And if I was to put my money on any supplement out there, I would put it on probiotics, especially in the day and age that we live in. They secrete antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal chemicals, protecting us from pathogenic bacteria. They form a physical barrier that hinder the invasion of bacteria and yeast into our bloodstream, right outside of our gut lining there. They also create an acidic environment, which promotes iron and mineral absorption. So a lot of people have B12 deficiency is really common, especially people with gluten intolerance. You're not absorbing those vitamins that you really need to feel good. And so people develop what's called gut permeability or leaky gut. And there's a lot of things that can cause it. I talked about gluten, the number one thing. But even being stressed, chronically stressed, can open up those tight junctions and start letting these things in our body that cause inflammation. Toxins, food particles, drugs, pathogens, all of these things can do that. And what we know now is when we start having gut permeability, we start developing more food intolerances because the food is in our blood where it's not supposed to be. The body is having and it responds to that, and then the body gets confused and it starts attacking itself. And then we have autoimmune disease. And leaky gut is the foundation for all autoimmune disease. And so healing that gut is so important. I saw that with Grace, with her asthma, with her eczema. Both of those are autoimmune issues. Healing the gut had a huge impact on that. So I'm going to give you some tips for healing your gut, for really working on it. I think it's the number one thing you should do if you want to have good health and if you want to have good brain health, because the gut and the brain are so intimately connected via the vagus nerve. So first of all, you've got to remove the inflammatory foods. Get off the chemicals and the processed foods and the gluten and sugar, and eat probiotic-rich foods. Those are fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and yogurt. Take a good probiotic supplement. Make sure there's multiple strains in there. Don't just do acidophilus. Do as many as you can. Metagenics is a company that I recommend that has the best supplements, the best probiotics that I've seen. Take digestive enzymes. Avoid unnecessary use of antibiotics, steroids, and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, because they damage the lining of the gut. Things like Advil and ibuprofen put about 120,000 people in the hospital every year. And so we use something called Kirky Max Pro. It's turmeric. It's fabulous for pain, and it won't damage your gut. Avoid meat that is fed antibiotics. Most of the meat in America is fed lots and lots of antibiotics in our factory farms. So trying to find clean meat, I think, is important. Avoid genetically modified foods. We talked about those, how they damage the gut. Pesticides, chlorinated water, artificial sweeteners. Remove pathogenic microbes, and we don't have time to talk about that today, but that is a really important step. If you were to come see me as a client, we would work on that using herbs and botanicals. Consume foods and supplements that heal and seal the gut. So here's some that are really important. Aloe vera is very healing. Bone broth is very healing for the gut. All of those minerals, and glutamine powder, colostrum, that's that first food that we had as babies. You can buy that now and take that. Okra, slippery elm, diglycerized licorice. These are some supplements that you can take if you have a leaky gut. And then prebiotics are the food for our probiotics. By the way, probiotic means life, and antibiotic is anti-life. So just so you know that. I think the future of medicine is going to be all about probiotics and healthy guts. Eat prebiotics, and these are resistant starches. Our body can't digest them and doesn't use them, but they feed our bacteria. So plantains, green bananas, jicama, raw onions, artichokes, garlic. These are really good foods that feed our microbiome. And then manage your stress. Try not to have too much stress, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Interesting what's going on with the microbiome. There's something called fecal transplants. Has anybody heard of this before? Fecal transplants? Okay. So what they're doing now, this is absolutely fascinating to me, is they can take the feces of a healthy rat with diabetes and put it in, of a rat with diabetes, and put it in a rat without it, and the rat that gets the feces of the diabetic rat will develop diabetes. They can take the feces of an obese rat and put it in a skinny rat and make that rat obese. And now they're doing it with humans. Actually, in England, there's a doctor that's taking type 2 diabetic patients. He's taking fecal transplants from people that don't have diabetes and reversing diabetes by changing the microbiome. Absolutely cutting-edge stuff. We're using it in America for something called C. diff, which is a chronic condition. It's actually caused by taking antibiotics, fluoroquinolone antibiotics. They wipe out the good bacteria that protect the body from the overgrowth of C. diff, which is a type of bacteria. And when that bacteria blooms, people start having chronic diarrhea, and thousands of Americans die from it every year. There's no cure for it until they discovered fecal transplants, and it's 100% curable with fecal transplants. Actually, I think it was 98% curable with fecal transplants. And so putting the bacteria back in the body that the body needs to be healthy. And I really think this is the future of medicine. So taking care of your gut is absolutely critical. So there's some pictures of fermented foods up here. I talked about some of those. bone broth. And then step number 3 is really, really critical, and that is regulating your insulin production and keeping your blood sugar stable. Stable blood sugar will help you to lose weight, fat, balance hormones, reduce stress and improve sleep, maintain an ideal body composition, and eliminate all the major disease risk factors. Sugar is enemy number 1. It's the modern smoking. So we know that sugar can cause all kinds of problems in the body. So here's what happens. When you eat sugar, it goes into your bloodstream, and your pancreas releases something called insulin. Insulin is the sugar bus that grabs the sugar and takes it to the cells, and the cells open up and say, come in, and the cells use the glucose for energy. If they don't need the sugar, because they had so much, because you already had a donut 3 minutes ago or an hour ago, then insulin has to take that sugar over to the liver, where it's converted into, guess what? Fat, triglycerides, cholesterol. And so that's what happens to sugar in the body. Turns out that fat doesn't make us fat. Sugar makes us fat. And foods that rapidly turn to sugar in the body do the exact same thing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We know today that excess sugar feeds cancer, triggers weight gain, promotes premature aging. It damages our nerves, damages our heart, damages our kidneys and our eyes. It feeds pathogenic bacteria and yeast. It creates hormonal imbalance. It increases the risk for diabetes and Alzheimer's, and it shrinks the brain. Sugar is public enemy number 1. We have got to get our blood sugar under control. The average American eats 152 pounds of sugar a year. That is just crazy. And it's not just the sugar, it's the artificial sweeteners too. Artificial sweeteners, we know, cause leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone in our brain that tells us we're full. And if that's not working right, we're just going to keep eating and eating and eating. And so artificial sweeteners actually cause overeating and obesity. Artificial sweeteners may disrupt the body's ability to regulate blood sugar, causing metabolic changes that can be a precursor to diabetes. So we've been told to drink artificial sweeteners if we're diabetic, but actually it's exacerbating the problem. So, and they also alter the microbiome and cause glucose intolerance. So we've got to get away from the chemicals and from the sugar. There are some really good sweeteners that we can use in moderation. So the deal is, when you have sugar in your bloodstream and it's too high and you keep eating sugar, your cells become resistant to insulin. They say, nope, we're numb now. There's so much sugar here all the time. They just don't even accept it anymore. And insulin resistance is a precursor to diabetes. You don't want to be insulin resistant. And now we know that the brain can become insulin resistant. That's called type 3 diabetes, or Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is insulin resistance of the brain, and it's very common in America. So we want to keep our blood sugar stable. Stevia is a really good sweetener because it has a very low glycemic index. So does monk fruit and raw honey. And coconut sugar is another, but always in moderation. There's 4 pictures up here. All of these have what's called a glycemic index. That means they affect your blood sugar at different rates. And so what I want to know is which one of these foods has the biggest impact on your blood sugar. In other words, which one spikes your blood sugar the highest? It turns to sugar faster than anything else. What is your guess? Some of y'all went to my other class. You're right, bread does. Eating bread is basically eating sugar. It's the same thing. So just be aware of that if you're trying to keep your blood sugar stable. Be careful with bread. The relationship between poor blood sugar control and Alzheimer's is so strong that researchers are now calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes. So here's some tips for getting your blood sugar under control. Always eat protein or fat with your carbs. Don't eat them by themselves. Don't eat a baked potato all by itself. Put butter on it. Put coconut oil on it. Put something on it to keep your blood sugar from spiking. Choose unrefined carbs. So don't eat the carbs in the boxes and the bags. Choose a piece of fruit. That's unrefined carb. Eat some vegetables. Those are unrefined carbs. They have fiber and vitamins and minerals with them. Eat lots of high fiber foods. We put chia seeds in everything. They're like the #1 most fibrous food. Chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, you can put them in your shakes. Stay away from white flour, white sugar, and artificial sweeteners. Eat lots of healthy fat. Guess what? Fat doesn't spike your blood sugar at all. It has no impact on your blood sugar. And if you eat more fat, your body will burn more fat. Exercise, burst training, resistance training, weight training. We've got to build some muscle so that we can become insulin sensitive. And then keep your carbs under 100 grams a day for weight loss. And I didn't say sugar, I said carbs. Under 100 grams a day if you want to lose weight. So the next thing that we really need to do is we've got to optimize our nutrition. The food that you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. So there's some biblical principles that we use in our home for eating healthy. So the first one is don't eat more than your share. Don't eat food that involves unethical treatment of animals and people. Don't eat food that harms your body. Don't eat food that harms the land and future generations. And eat real food as close to its natural state as possible. So what did God say we should eat? Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, and they will be yours for food. This is what we're supposed to be eating, real, fresh, whole food. And then later he said that we could eat the animals as well. So if you eat meat and vegetables, you're good. You're safe. We've got to get rid of all the inflammatory foods and food additives that have just saturated our food culture. We're addicted to them. Our kids are addicted to them, and they're absolutely killing us. We've got to replace them with nutrient-dense, fresh whole foods and beverages and supplements. One of the most toxic foods that we're seeing, and you even hear about it on the news now, they're going to remove trans fats. Thank goodness. But the problem is we're still using these industrially processed vegetable oils that increase inflammation, elevate blood triglycerides, impair insulin. They link to diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, and have harmful effects on the stability of our cell membranes and our brain cells. And these are things like cottonseed oil, canola oil, Wesson oil, Crisco, corn oil, soybean oil, peanut oil, any fake butter, any fake anything. Man-made food is not what God intended us to eat. God made the food. He made our bodies. He knows what we need. Don't eat man-made food if you can avoid it. The benefits of eating healthy fats are huge and numerous. They improve your brain and your memory function because your brain is 60% fat. You have to have fat in your diet. You know, if your cholesterol gets under 160, your body can't even make hormones anymore. Your hormones are made from cholesterol. So don't be terrified of cholesterol. Just be terrified of the small, dense LDL particles and of triglycerides that actually come from eating what? Triglycerides come from eating what? Sugar. Sugar does that, and unhealthy fats. Build healthy cell membranes. Every cell in your body, the membrane is made of fat. Every cell in your body you need fat for. Improve your hormone balance. Help burn stored fat. Fats are necessary for vitamin D assimilation. If you don't have enough cholesterol, you can't make vitamin D. They protect against free radical damage. They're necessary for the production of serotonin. And actually eating good fats, especially like butter, a good butter with butyric acid, helps to maintain the integrity of your gut wall. And they're necessary for cellular repair. According to a Mayo Clinic report, individuals eating a high-fat diet reduce their risk of dementia. Listen to this. Reduce their risk of dementia eating a high-fat diet by 44%. This is according to Mayo Clinic. So here's the healthy fats for your brain. So extra virgin olive oil, excellent for brain health. Coconut oil, flax oil, which needs to be refrigerated, by the way. It does go rancid quickly. Eggs are good for your brain. Palm oil, avocados, hemp oil, grapeseed oil, sesame seed oil, walnut oil, ghee, which is a clarified butter, Kerrygold, which is a pastured butter. Try to get an organic pastured butter to avoid all the stuff that's in regular conventional butter. And then take a good fish oil or a krill oil. It's excellent for brain health. So if you want to have a healthy brain, have a healthy microbiome, Get your sugar under control. Eat lots of healthy fats, and you will have a much healthier brain. This is what we did with Dad, and he got his memory back. And exercise also helps to build brain cells. Limit factory farm meats and eggs. So we know that today in the modern world we have these huge concentrated animal feeding operations, and these animals are just fed genetically modified grains that are loaded with mycotoxins and pesticides. They're given hormones, antibiotics, dead animals, they're fed arsenic. This is not a clean product. These animals are stressed, they have high cortisol. When you can buy, obviously we're going to go out and eat this at restaurants, but when it's under your control at home, try to eat clean, organic, wild-caught, pasture-raised animals. That's how God intended us to eat them. Remove factory-farmed eggs and poultry. You can see that feeding chickens antibiotics makes them fat very, very quickly. You can see the difference in the size here. And also, in the picture of the eggs up there, that egg in the far corner that's bright orange, that's a really healthy egg. It's very nutrient dense because the chicken was not a vegetarian. Yes, it ate a lot of grass, but it also ate bugs. There's more protein in it. It's more nutrient dense. You are what you eat. So choose grass-fed and organic meat. And here's a little cartoon. I'm sick and tired of being fed antibiotics, hormones, pesticide-contaminated grain, and ground-up parts of our own relatives. Mad cows. So we don't want to eat those guys. Eat clean animal proteins. I talked about that. Superfoods are organ meats. They were the multivitamins of the ancients. You get 2,000% of your recommended daily allowance of vitamin B12 and a slice of liver. And if you eat heart, you're getting all your CoQ10, which is so important for cellular health and energy. If you're on a statin, by the way, you're depleted in CoQ10, and you've got to have CoQ10. And elderly people need the active form called ubiquinol. Very important to remember that. Eat complete sources of plant protein. So not all plants that have protein in them are complete. They don't have all the amino acids. But these ones do. Hemp, chia, moringa, spirulina, chlorella, sprouts. We put them in our shakes because we do protein shakes. We don't want to just get our protein from animals. We want to get it also from plants for variety. And I recommend everybody does at least 4 proteins a day. Eat 4 servings of protein a day. Unless you're over 160 pounds, then you need 5. And a serving of protein is about 3 ounces, about the size of your fist. Most people don't get enough protein, and so they're losing muscle, and it's so important to have muscle for health. Complete meal replacement protein shakes are excellent. We do 2 a day, at least 1 a day, sometimes 2 a day. For nutrition, they're quick, they're easy, they give you protein. It's a great way if you can find a good quality shake. I love these too. And you can add super greens to them. So another food that I don't recommend drinking is conventional cow's milk. Now, there are other forms of milk that are excellent, but conventional cow's milk is designed to grow a calf from an infant to a 600-pound cow in 6 months. Okay, this is a food for growth. If you want to get big and fat really fast, drink a lot of milk. It contains 59 hormones. It's homogenized, so the fat in it is oxidized. It contains casein and lactose, which many, many people are intolerant to. It's injected with RBGH, the hormone that we know causes cancer. It contains pus, blood cells, antibiotics, because the cows are so sick because of all the hormones they're given to make them produce more milk. They have to be on lots of antibiotics. And then they're fed, of course, GMOs with their pesticides. And so really a better thing to do is find some grass-fed organic milk. You can still drink milk if you're not intolerant, but find a good quality milk or cheese. There's great organic pastured butters out there. Ghee is a great choice. We even did organic raw milk for years. Hemp milk is a wonderful milk dairy alternative. Almond milk, flax milk, coconut milk. There are many, many choices out there. You don't have to drink cow's milk. And then the other thing is, I don't recommend a low-carb diet. I want you to eat a ton of carbs. I want you to choose the right carbs. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, and safe grains like rice and quinoa are good choices. So choose nutrient-dense and low glycemic index carbs. So I like people to eat at least 8 to 10 servings of vegetables a day. This is using food as medicine. This is what I'm teaching you. If you want to use food as medicine to heal your body, you've got to use it therapeutically, and that means a lot of it, a lot of vegetables, especially cruciferous vegetables because they cleanse your cells. They help with detoxification. Steam your vegetables. Now, if you have Hashimoto's or thyroid issues, always cook your cruciferous vegetables. Sea vegetables are so important. Americans are terribly depleted in iodine, and then we're drinking all this fluoride and chlorine, and it's damaging our thyroid. And so getting good iodine in and lots of minerals. Starches in moderation, so it's good to eat some fruit and some potatoes are okay, and root vegetables, unless you have terrible sugar imbalances. Then you need to be more careful. Nuts in the raw are fabulous. Just keep them refrigerated or frozen because they tend to grow mold. Eat lots of seeds. Seeds are wonderful for your health. Chia seeds, there's a picture right there, fantastic, especially if you have a lot of constipation issues. Fruits are wonderful for the body, but don't overdo it. They're high in sugar, so I recommend 2 servings a day. And berries are your best choices. Papayas and pineapple contain enzymes that are excellent to help with digestion. And then use herbs. Herbs are fabulous. They're so medicinal, so healing for the body. The more herbs you can get into your diet, the better. And then eat living food. We eat dead food in America. Most of our food is overly cooked. It's dead. It's not alive. It doesn't have any enzymes in it. And so cooking food destroys the enzymes. And that's what's necessary for our bodies to break it down. Our pancreas excretes enzymes, but we can just wear our pancreases out with our diet. Energy, regularity, fiber, all these things they provide for us. Safe grains in moderation, just because they do spike your blood sugar. But athletes need more of this than people that are sedentary. After you're 40, your body's ability to metabolize carbohydrates goes down. It gets more difficult. And so the older you are, the less of these starchy grains and carbs you need. And then salt. Salt's been demonized, but our bodies need salt. But we don't need table salt. It's 99% sodium chloride, which is excessive levels are toxic to the body. This salt that we're sold that's at the restaurants, it contains sodium iodine, aluminum, sodium fluoride, and bleach. It's highly processed. Don't use it. Use Himalayan or Celtic sea salt. Both of those contain 84 minerals that perfectly match the mineral content of your blood. Incredibly important for your electrolytes. Very good for cardiovascular health and also support respiratory function and reduce the sign of aging. So really need good quality salt in our diet. Drink half your body weight in ounces every day. Figure that out and try to get that in because that is so important to stay hydrated. And you can use herbal teas as well. There's so many good teas out there. And of course we do shakes. Healthy snacks, things like nut butters and mixed nuts and chia seed pudding and fruit are really good. Our daily meal plan, this is my daily meal plan and what we advise to our clients. Start the day off with a complex protein shake. Get a really good quality one, put tons of berries in there, spinach, kale, blend it up. It's easy, takes 5 minutes. Breakfast is the easiest meal because most Americans eat what for breakfast? Dessert, right? Pancakes, muffins, bagels. You're just eating sugar for breakfast. You've got to have protein for breakfast. And so try to move away from the cereals and all of that and get a really healthy breakfast in to start your day. Have some nuts in the afternoon for a snack. Have a huge raw salad for lunch with some protein and lots of fat on there. Oils, really good oils. I like people to have 6 to 8 teaspoons of oil every day. Load it up with oil. You can do another protein shake in the afternoon or a chia seed pudding or something. And then for dinner, have a big roast beef or a steak or some grilled chicken or some salmon with lots and lots of vegetables or salad or steamed Brussels sprouts or whatever. And then you can have another snack in the evening if you need to. But this is just one way that you can create a meal plan that will help you to upgrade your nutrition. And then learn to read labels. Right here you're looking at a billboard telling you that this food provides a strong heart, is full of antioxidants. On the back, though, we see that it has 43 grams of carbohydrates in 1 cup. Oh, my goodness. And then if you look at the very back, and this is where you really need to just ignore the billboard, right? This food contains rice and whole grain wheat and sugar and oats and more sugar and canola oil and molasses and honey and tons of preservatives that are banned in other countries and high fructose corn syrup and BHT and more sugar, and it's just unbelievable how unhealthy this is. Don't trust the billboard. So supplement wisely is the next one. So I recommend everybody take vitamin D because almost everyone in America is deficient in vitamin D. You can get tested for it. Optimal levels would be anything over 60, and I rarely see that. Multivitamin is really important. I love Metagenics Phytomulti, or you can do a moringa. Moringa is wonderful. Krebs, magnesium and potassium, very important. Just bringing magnesium into your diet can really help if you supplement with it. For muscle pain, restless legs, constipation. Biozyme, these are digestive enzymes, pancreatic enzymes. I think everyone should be on a good enzyme because of the depletion in our food. These help support our pancreas and help us to get the nutrition from our food that we need. Probiotics are number one. Get a good probiotic. And Metagenics, I recommend. If you can find somebody that sells Metagenics, you may be able to buy them online. I recommend their products. But there are other really good ones as well. Eskimo oil or krill oil. This is a high-quality fish oil. You have to be careful about your fish oil. A lot of them are contaminated with mercury because the fish are so toxic or they're already rancid. So if you can find a physician-grade fish oil, that's what I recommend. And then for those of you that have blood sugar issues or trying to lose weight or trying to break that addiction to sugar and carbs, you need chromium because it pushes the glucose into the cells. And if you're insulin resistant, you really need this. Alpha lipoic acid is an excellent antioxidant. I think every senior should be on a good alpha lipoic acid. And then UBQH, that's ubiquinol, CoQ10, are really important. So step number 5, and I didn't mention this, another one that I really recommend for brain health. It's a natural substance herb called ginkgo biloba, and what it does is it helps with circulation, so it really helps with circulation to the brain, but you can't take it if you're taking other blood thinners because it is a natural blood thinner, but it won't damage the walls of your arteries and veins like aspirin can and some of these others can. Build more muscle. This is absolutely crucial as you get older because the less muscle you have, the weaker your skeleton is, the more likely you're going to break a bone if you fall. We lose half a pound of muscle per year as we get older. By 70, we've lost 50% of our body strength. Building muscle increases our metabolism, which burns fat. Muscle increases blood flow to the brain, our focus, our memory. It promotes the growth of new brain cells if we get more muscle. Muscle burns sugar for energy, increases insulin sensitivity. The stronger our muscles are, the stronger our heart becomes, and the more proficient it is at pumping blood. So we've got to get moving. So walking is great. I mean, God made our bodies to move. We've got to move. You know, walk, ride your bike, play tennis, whatever. But realize you're not building muscle when you do that. To build muscle, you've got to do some kind of exercise to exhaustion, and it may just take you 30 seconds. I do 4 exercises every day, 1 minute each, all in a row, and that's all I do. And my body composition has radically changed since I started doing that. These are some that I recommend. A plank is excellent, and you can start out on your knees. If you have back issues, you probably need to talk to whoever you're working out with if you have a trainer that can help you with this, if you're an older person. Lunges, squats, you can do a wall squat. Mom and Dad are doing these exercises. I've got them doing them because I don't want them to fall and break their bones. Push-ups, and then for the younger folks, burpees are excellent for building muscle, but you've got to do it to exhaustion. You can't just do 1 or 2 and think, oh, that's going to build muscle. So I use a timer and set it for 60 seconds, and I do as many of these as I can in 1 minute. Another exercise that I recommend is rebounding. Rebounding, according to NASA, was the most brilliant exercise ever devised by man. They use it to train their astronauts, or did. Rebounding increases white blood cells, stimulates your lymphatic system, wonderful for detoxification, boosts your energy, improves digestion, improves varicose veins, weight loss, prevents cancer, builds bone mass, and reduces cellulite. We have all of our cancer clients buy a rebounder because it really does make a difference. And then managing your stress. You know, really important in our today's world to manage our stress. Pray and meditate every day. Keep a journal. Set boundaries for yourself. Really important to learn to say no. Practice gratitude. Spend time in nature. Deep breathing. When I'm in a stressful situation, I make myself breathe deeply, and it's very calming. Get moving. Walk. Schedule time to do something that you love every week. Practice mindfulness and forgive. So important. So here's some tips for success. Respect yourself and value your health. Remember that your choices today determine what your health will be like tomorrow. And schedule your health. It's not just going to happen. 8 weeks will create new habits and reset your taste buds. You've got to have a good why for getting healthier. You won't stick with it. Find a like-minded community support group or a coach, and keep a food or a health journal. These are some tools that we use, and I talked about some of these. And then I've got some books over there. Another thing that you can do is show your family some really good films to get them on board. Food Matters, Food Inc., Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead are all great documentaries that you can watch. They're available on Netflix to inspire you and encourage you and help you and your community build health. Some really good books here that you can read. Brain Maker is the newest book I just read. If you're worried about your brain, you want to optimize brain health, I recommend that you read this, The Power of Your Gut Microbiome to Heal and Protect Your Brain for Life, going back to the gut. Grain Brain, written by a neurologist about how grain damages your brain, and Wheat Belly by a cardiologist about how grain is damaging your heart. And then pictures of beautiful, healthy food that's real and fresh. So eat real food. Do we have time to show that video clip, Trey? Y'all want to watch a quick video clip? Okay, all right. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I know this was a lot of information, so go ahead, Tim. Oh. Yeah, you'll see my notes, so you can get all that. Yeah, Tim.
What's your opinion about black coffee or caffeine?
So coffee can be good or it can be bad. It just depends. So a lot of coffee, it's one of the most moldy foods, so you have to source your coffee really well. I recommend upgraded coffee if you're going to do coffee because it's a mold-free coffee. So if you have digestive issues, caffeine can really exacerbate that. If you're going to drink coffee, drink it first thing in the morning. I can't do caffeine, but everybody's different. We're all biochemically unique, and there's no one diet that fits everybody. But coffee can be good for some people. Other people, it can be aggravating. Yeah, Rob?
I know that juices have a lot of sugar, so if you're taking away soft drinks and going to drink something other than water all the time, what do you recommend?
Okay, so Rob wants to know what we recommend if we're taking out soft drinks. So what I recommend is doing herbal teas. So learning to like teas like Pau d'Arco and rooibos tea and green tea and white tea. And you can add a little bit of sweetener to those, like a raw honey to sweeten that.
You can buy like Arizona, whatever it is, ginger tea, the big containers. Is that
You know what? I haven't looked at the ingredients in that. I don't know what kind of sugars and sweeteners they add to that. You'd have to check that out. Yeah. Seltzer water? That's a good question. You know, I really don't know anything much about seltzer water. I'd have to check the ingredients in that. What we do is just water, and we do shakes, and we recommend doing vegetable juices. So not fruit juices, because fruit juices will spike your blood sugar. I don't recommend doing orange juice, honestly, because it will totally spike your blood sugar. Unless you're an athlete, you know, then you can handle it if you're working out a lot. But, you know, I don't recommend apple juice or any of that. Go ahead, Uncle Morley.
I've seen a lot of articles coming out on the problem with cyanide in rice. What about that?
Okay. So a lot of the rice in America contains arsenic. And so we want to be careful about where we buy our rice. So if you're buying jasmine or basmati rice, you're pretty safe. The protein shakes I recommend come from a company called Metagenics. Ultra glucose control. But you know what? There are a lot of good protein shakes out there. Just check the back, make sure there's no added preservatives and artificial sweeteners and all that. And make sure that they have at least 20 grams of protein and less than 15 grams of carbohydrates. A lot of them will have like 20 or 30 grams of sugar in them, and you don't want that in a protein shake. Hypothyroid? Yes. Okay, so that's a good question. So cruciferous vegetables have in them what's called goitrogens. They can also affect the thyroid. When you cook them, it diminishes those quite a bit. So I recommend cooking them instead of eating them raw.
What do's and don'ts do you have for
arthritis? Okay, so Rob wants to know what we recommend for arthritis. One thing that you can do is get off the gluten, and then magnesium can really help with that. Add magnesium, get off gluten, get off inflammatory foods. Because for a lot of people, arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis, is an autoimmune issue. So a lot of times it goes back to the gut. So if you do these foundational principles that I talk about, that can really help diminish the arthritis.